I'm Simon Bishop. I'm based in London in the UK. I've been recording sound since I was about 9 years old. I found a tape recorder under my parents' piano when I was a kid and my dad gave it to me. And then career-wise, I started in corporate filmmaking and I moved on through documentaries, pop videos, films about pop people, and then started doing TV drama. Most of my work now is in TV drama. Welcome to my grotto. That'll be the 5:30 to Reading, I think. I moved to digital I bought one of the very first PCM 2000s, the Sony DAT machine that was nominally a pro machine, only because it could record timecode on an analog track on a digital machine. But then I also was a very early adopter for Zaxcom when the Diva, I actually bought a Diva 1, but on the day that I took delivery of it, they announced the Diva 2. So I had a word with the agent and a deal was done and I had the first Diva 2 that came into the country. I was a Zaxcom boy for most of 20 years. This summer, I was looking forwards to new recorders, generally. And I sold some of I had a mostly empty diary, work-wise. I sold some of the Zaxcom stuff while I thought it still had some value. And then my empty diary suddenly filled up and I had work. And I needed to solve the recording and mixing issue. So I looked around at what was available now, as it were. And the one that worked for me this time round was the X3. So I took delivery of my X3 about 2 months ago. Had about a week or 10 days to get everything ready for the shoot, which was rushed. And we did a certain amount of rejigging. And now I'm 5 weeks into shooting with the X3 and we're in a very happy place so far.
And you've been pretty ambitious. You've started on a new job. You were already on digital mics. When you've got the KMDs, the Neumanns, which are pretty nice sounding mics, because I've stood in for you and pleasantly surprised at how good those are. And you're also on Audio Limited 1010s. Yeah.
Yes, I could have stuck. I had 2040s. I could have stuck with 2040s. I felt that somebody needed to give the 1010s a good tryout. So I got 6 of them. We built a kind of a temporary rack that my wonderful engineer, Stuart Ebbs, built the trolley. Some of you will know there are only 2 of these trolleys and you have one and I have one, Tim. And they do the marvellous up and down trick. So we can set the height at which we want to work. And it works incredibly well. I love it. But Stuart knocked me up out of Perspex, a little rack that would take the 1010s. I put some RF distro in, which is from Audio Wireless. The Cedar arrived at the same time. So in the space of about 10 days all up, we rebuilt the trolley, rebuilt the cart with digital radio mics, the Cedar, which I'm just running as an experiment at the moment to see what it does. The power for the Neumann was already there. The X3 arrived, the CantarX3 arrived, and lots of things were rewired and rejigged.
So you are, presumably, you've got digital radio mics, you're able to go in digitally to your Cantar, so you're not actually using the preamps there, you're going straight in?
For the moment, I'm going in analogly. I wasn't quite sure when I rigged it all up what I was going to be doing with... I wasn't quite sure what I was going to be doing with the Neumanns and how they were going to get in and out. I hadn't decided what we were going to do with the Cedar. I've finally done that by running a AES out to it and an AES back. So that works as a really neat little loop. And I wasn't quite sure whether I was going to have enough AES inputs left to do the 1010s, because each 1010 currently would use one AES stream, which is 2 inputs. So it got messy. So they're actually going in on, some are going in on mic inputs and some are going in on line inputs, but they all sort themselves out. And it works really well. And actually it works really well because I have their input gains on the roundy knobs here, which means if I need to grab the input gain at some point and just give them a help or a tweak, they're actually there all the time. So it's like on a conventional mixer having the main gain, the input gain. The CantarX is really interesting because I bought it because clearly it integrated with the Cantar. I clearly needed more faders and I wanted them to be not necessarily where they are on the recorder. It'll be great when it's in a bag. I genuinely thought I was going to hate it because for me, I've been used to working with my fingers that far apart, and to suddenly have a mixer where they're so close together, I thought I was going to hate it. And quite literally from the first shot, I thought, oh wow, this is really cool. And I really like it now. I've popped a red fader on because that's where the radio mics start. So it just gives me a point of reference that I know that the first radio mic is there. Anything else I do with booms or playback or stuff can happen in there. And then the radio mics run out from there. So it's just if I need to run back in a hurry, I don't have to go, oh, is that 5 or 6 or 7, that one in the middle.
And have you ever overrun the Cantar M and you're running extra ones on top of the Cantar as well? Or do you just do your housekeeping on top of the Cantar?
Housekeeping outputs and things on the top at the moment. But yeah, I mean, the lovely thing is that that everything is so flexible and any fader can grab hold of any level in the chain, really. So it's gorgeous. That's very nice.
The software keeps on throwing up new things, doesn't it?
I'm on my 3rd version of software, I believe. I think it's officially 7 weeks, might be 8 weeks. And each version has brought new things. I always think it's fascinating with any of these digital machines from any of the manufacturers, the rate at which the new software versions appear and what they bring. It was 2 months ago when I bought it, it was a pretty complete machine. It's now a more complete machine, and 2 years from now it will be a much more complete machine. What's great is that one feels confident that the guys at Arton are working on it. It's very much an ongoing process. You feel like they're taking ideas, and they are. I mean, ideas are always on the to-do list and go up and down in importance depending on who shouts out about what thing they want, what feature they want. But it definitely feels like that the important ones are getting dealt with.
So the learning curve, because you come from a different brand, and I know you briefly used the CantarX one on a job years ago, and it was a different thing without an interactive screen, wasn't it?
I think over the years I've probably used most, if not all, of the non-linear digital recorders. So I've tried them all, and I've had I feel like I'm quite good with non-linear digital recorders. I have always felt that the learning curve for Arton is a really interesting one. In fact, with the X3, the thing that I had to get my head around, and once I'd got my head around it, it all became very obvious, really, is that you have inputs that you route to tracks, and then you have tracks that you put into a mix. And if you can get your head around that, it works very well.
Obviously, one of the big changes in the Cantar between the X1, X2 and the X3, there was a change of ownership, and Transvideo came in, and obviously their speciality is screens. That was an interesting one, isn't it? It's certainly bright.
It works well for me. It's our British summer. We do occasionally have a sunny day, and on a sunny day it can be well bright. So far, it's the most readable screen I think I've used. generally. It's really nice being able to tilt it as well, because although it's a shiny glass, it's just so simple just to tilt it to where you don't see the annoying reflection. That I actually think that's a very positive.
And high resolution also means that the amount of information they can put on it. I particularly like the fact that if you put the selector in different positions, it gives you hints across the bottom of the screen as to what the different functions do.
That's how I've learnt it. And I'm still using them at the moment.
And little things that have changed recently. I mean, it was quite interesting when we were testing this beta software to see that instead of just having a bar at the bottom of the meter, that bar, when you set your panning left or right or centre or whatever, now changes so you can see it straight away on the screen.
Yeah, absolutely. The new little red and green, this is where you're panned scenarios are great.
Yeah, by the time this beta at the moment, by the time that comes out, that'll be, hopefully, by the time this is cut, that will be released.
Yeah.
You're a Zaxcom user, so you'll be quite used to the fact that you can enter metadata whilst you're recording. And I was thinking to myself, why do you need that? Surely you're concentrating on recording. But actually, as the smoke settles and whatever, if you've got the wrong slate number and whatever, being able to change it during the recording.
Yeah, the philosophy of mixing, I think it's really interesting. Somebody put it to me that I shouldn't be editing my metadata while I'm recording. And actually, if all it is a slate number, and there is that kind of 15 and 20 seconds at the beginning when you all turn over, it actually really bothers me that if they've moved on to a new slate number and I haven't, I spend half of the take while I'm mixing trying to remember that at the end of the take I have to go back and put the metadata right. Whereas at the moment when the board goes on and I look at it all and go, oh, screw it, I've got the wrong number in the metadata, I would far rather just nip in, put it right, and come back out. At which point we probably only just said action, and I'm cool anyway. It's certainly, it's just for me, it's one less thing to think about, and it used to bother me that I couldn't do the metadata.
For me, just having the display in playback means that pretty much after every take, I'll go into playback and spin it through, because I can see exactly when the dialogue starts. And if there's the slightest thing I've got a query about, I've solved it, and I spin to the relevant parts. And so I don't want to be changing metadata after a take because I'm always listening back.
Yep, the playback and the scrolling in playback is dead useful, and to have that instantly available, and to was the aeroplane all right? You can usually see the aeroplane, or the door slam or whatever it might be, and just whiz up and go for it. Yeah, that works really well.